Hey, it's Johar, welcome back to my channel. So I haven't uploaded much lately, but I want to talk about an idea I've had for a while, which is why do kids shows normalize queer characters and relationships when adult shows don't? And first things first I want to say is that I understand needing to show um, how the coming out and stuff is very important so that everyone can see everything that can happen, because there's several things that can happen when you come out. Your parents can either accept you right away, no questions asked. There are times that they knew all along. There are times when they are horrified, but they eventually down the line learn to accept you because they care about you more than they care about your sexuality. And then there are times when they just can never accept you. They pretty much disown you. Um, so there's several things that can happen, and I get needing to show it, but at the same time, I feel like sometimes you don't always need to have this big blowout when there's a gay character. Like there's not always necessary for this huge coming out. Sometimes you can just have a character who has a crush, like in Hocus Pocus and the All New Sequel, which is a book, because the sequel movie sucked. The book is by far so much better than even the original movie. I am in love with the book. Um, uh, the main character is Max and Allison's daughter Poppy, and finds she has a best friend Travis, and when Travis starts teasing Poppy when her crush Isabella walks up, but it's not made a big deal that she has a crush on a girl. He's just like, hey, your crush is coming, and then in walks Isabella, and that is that. And they never make a big thing about it being a girl, even when they get together later on, and her Poppy's parents are just happy for her. No one ever makes a big deal about the fact that she has a crush on a girl, and I get needing to show that sometimes not always that simple, but at the same time we never get to see in adult shows that it can be that simple, because it was for me. Um, I never had a real coming out. I mean, my mom, my entire apparently everyone knew I was a lesbian before I did, and then even when after I found out, I never really came out. I just it was just a known fact that I was a lesbian, and that was that. And it's like I don't get representation for myself because I don't get to see anyone with that kind of story. Um, and um, like I recently saw a TikTok where the dad and younger brother from Good Luck Charlie were talking about the episode where um, Charlie had a play date, and um, the mom and dad were talking, Amy and Bob were talking about how they both had conversations with the mom, but they remembered the mom having two different names, so they were confused. Um, and then when the parents come to pick up Charlie's friend, it turns out that she had two moms, and they didn't make a big deal about it. Bob just turns to Amy, he's like, "Oh, she has two moms," and she was like, "Yeah, I get that now." But they didn't make a big deal about it. They were just two parents picking up their child, and um, and once they realized why they remember two different names of who they talked to when they talked to the girl's mom, they it was just that. Bob was just like, that's why, and that was that. Like, it was a big deal. And I feel like kids shows just normalize it so much more, at least nowadays, because there was like a time when kids shows wouldn't even show it. Like the earliest kids show that I know of that did was Legend of Korra, which was I think 2012. I might be wrong, and there may be uh queer characters and relationships from kids media before then, but that's the earliest that I know of. So don't attack me for being like, oh, this was the first show with a queer character. This the first show I know of that had a queer character and relationship. And like obviously, Korra, who's the main character, and then Asami both had crushes on Mako. Were both with Mako at different times. Um, and they both technically kissed Mako when the other one was dating Mako. It was this whole situation. But then, and what annoys me the most is that people are like, oh, the relationship came out of nowhere. No, it didn't. It really didn't. Like, I don't know. I saw it. I saw the signs, especially in season 4, but there were even signs in season 3. And I really liked their friendship from season 3 onward. Um, because you see how close they get, and then at the end it was just they had a crush on each other. They didn't make it as obvious as they could have nowadays because because it was still in 2012 and it was taboo to have queer characters and relationships in adult media still, let alone kids media. So uh but they went to the spirit portal for a vacation. They held hands and had their foreheads touching, and they wanted to have them kiss, but obviously they were like, nope, not gonna happen. But yeah, so that's the first one that I know of from actual kids media. I wouldn't say that's even my first queer relationship I was introduced to because I watched adult shows when I was really really young. A lot of adult shows. I watched Buffy, Charm, um, Walker, Xena, Facts of Life, Soap, Roseanne. I remember watching these when I was young because I don't remember a time when I wasn't a fan of all those shows. But not Charm, Buffy the Vampire Slayer introduces Tara in season 4, and her and Willow, who have been on since the beginning, end up forming a romantic relationship, and they would be my first same-sex couple I was introduced to. And my mom didn't think anything of it. Maybe that's also why I didn't really have a need to come out because um, my mom didn't mind me watching shows like that. Like she didn't think it was anything to hide me from because it's just life. You know, you're going to see that whether you're straight or gay or lesbian or whatever, you're going to see that sometime in your life. And she doesn't think there's anything wrong with it, and she was like, so she didn't care, that she didn't try to like pass the Tara and Willow scenes as I was watching because it's like it doesn't matter. It's no different than a child watching a straight couple because if watching a same-sex couple and watching a straight couple is the same thing. If you have trouble issues with the same-sex couple, you should have trouble with the straight couple because at the end it's still couples, and you either okay with your kids watching both or you're okay with your kids not watching any. Um, but yeah, so um, but yeah, like, but Buffy still had a whole coming out, which I get because Willow had until then only seemed to be liking boys, but she realizes that she only thought she liked them in that way because she didn't know she was lesbian. She wasn't really introduced to that until she met Tara, and then she realizes that this is the love, the romance I never really experienced because I like girls and she only likes girls. Um, and there's a lot of things that Degrassi Next Class. I haven't actually watched most of Degrassi. I've really only seen Next Class and a few things I saw from uh, the the Next Generation. But I really enjoy Next Class. My favorite character is Zoe, and my favorite relationship is Zoe and Rasha. And I love Zoe's story. Hers, it's so sad. It's probably the saddest coming out story I've ever seen, just because of how it ended, and it still breaks my heart when she's up there by herself and doesn't really have anybody on her graduation day. It breaks my heart. But and then Grey's Anatomy with Callie's coming out, which again I get because she hadn't discovered she was bisexual yet, and she had to go on that journey. Um, of self-discovery. So sometimes I get it because especially when you if you like there's some characters that are with men at first, and I don't think they knew they were gonna end up having this character be bisexual, lesbian, gay. They just came up with the idea later, so they kind of have to go through that self-discovery thing because it doesn't make sense to just jump them into this relationship when they haven't seemed to be wanting relationships like that. So yeah, but Glee did it with every character that was LGBTQ. Mostly Kurt and Santana had the big coming outs and stuff. Um, Arrow with Sarah, and then I feel like when that one was a little bit more normalized because they had um, Sarah, because Oliver saw Sarah and Nissa kiss and he was shocked, but he didn't really bring it up again. And then when she told her dad, he was just like, oh. And then they talk about it later, and he's like, I'm just so happy you had someone who loved you during that time. And it was never really brought up again. The fact, I mean, yeah, in Legends of Tomorrow, she's kissed Leonard at one point. She slept with Constantine, but then she had a long lasting relationship with Ava. Not to mention she kissed that one nurse from the past and stuff. So you could tell she's bisexual and she's attracted to both. And um, I feel like in Legends of Tomorrow they normalized it more. Like when it's mentioned when that Ava isn't really the marrying a man type, and Sarah just gives her a look, and it's like it felt a little bit more normalized in a lot of adult shows. And the Pillow Liars, Emily, that's a little bit different too, cause like with shows like Buffy and Grey's Anatomy, I'm pretty sure they didn't intend to make Willow and Callie bisexual or lesbian at that point when the show first started or when the character was first introduced, since Callie wasn't introduced till season 2. But um, Emily, she didn't know she was a lesbian, but it was still at the beginning of the show when she figured it out. So they always knew when they created the character that she was gonna be a lesbian. Um, so I feel like the one adult show that truly normalizes it is Shadow and Bone. Um, the books and the TV show. When Tamar and Nadia start getting close, it's just they are two girls with crushes. When Jesper and Wylan are flirting and stuff, and it's just two boys with crushes. Like it's not meant to be made a big deal. Same with in King of Scars when Nina starts getting close to Hayne. It's just normalized. Um, but yeah, moving on to kid shows that all normalize it. Um, High School Musical, the musical series normalized it. Not with mm, um, I can't. Ashlyn and Maddox. Um, they don't. Because Ashlyn had a boyfriend and she didn't know that she was bisexual, so um, they had to go on that journey. She had to go on that journey in season 3, and then but after she had realized it, it still felt more normalized than a lot of adult shows because she she just kind of realized she liked girls, and it didn't feel like they were truly trying to force it or make a big deal out of it. Like she became like a little bit of an activist and stuff, like queer icon and stuff, but that's pretty normal for some queer people. I do that sometimes. But then but it was even more normalized in season 1 with Carlos and Seb, because the two of them just had crushes on each other from the beginning, and it never made a big deal. Like when they were rehearsing and Carlos was showing Seb the dance moves, and then Carlos just asked Seb to prom, and Seb said okay, and they were just acting like two teenage boys with crushes. Like it didn't matter if they had crushes on girls or boys. And then I already said Legend of Korra. I have my notes on my phone, so looking at that. And then Loud House, which is a kid show. It uh, the main character Lincoln. So for those of you that don't know what the Loud House is, there it's about a family of 11 kids. Lincoln is the only boy, and he's directly in the middle. So he has 5 older sisters and 5 younger sisters. Um, and it's kind of about him and his hectic life with 10 sisters. And his best friend Clyde um, is on a lot because they're really close, and he helps Lincoln with a lot of his hecticness, chaoticness, and stuff. And he has 2 dads, and it was just he just showed up one day with 2 dads, and no character. I mean, they probably knew each other for years, so everyone in the family already knew, but they didn't make a big deal of it for the audience. It's just like he had 2 dads, and that was that. And then later on, when one of Lincoln's older sisters, Luna, um, there was this episode where everyone found they found a love letter, but it didn't address to who it was. It just said L loud, and all their first names start with L, and so none of them knew that who the letter was for. But it was like this like love poem sort of deal. So they all had little crushes. Even the younger ones who had little crushes. Um, and then Luna was insistent it wasn't from her crush, and that was also and they also wouldn't show who her crush was, unlike everyone else, until the end of the episode when they find out that the letter was actually from the dad to the mom for their anniversary sort of thing, but she ends up deciding to write a love letter of her own for her crush, and then because it kept showing her with her friends because they're rockers. They like to they're in a rock band, and so it's they gave and they said it's Sam, so that it's a gender neutral name. It can be for a girl or a boy. So, but you see this girl and this boy keep hanging out with Luna, and you see Luna keep trying to impress someone, but you for some people who mostly straight people who are who probably are like it's probably the boy, like they don't even consider it might be the girl, but then at the end of the episode it was the girl that opened the locker to find Luna's love letter. um and then later on there was an episode where they go on a date, and but they didn't make a big deal, like she just had a crush on a girl. um and then there's Shira and the Princesses of Power. I absolutely love the show, and in this, there's several, but they focus a little bit more on Katra and Adora when it comes to last season, because after everything they've been through, they wanted you to know that despite everything that they've been through, despite being childhood best friends and enemies for the past several years, that they do care about each other and they are have crushes on each other. Um, so they want to show that, and they even have a love you confession and everything. Um, but with like when you meet Bo's dads, it's not made to be a big deal that he has two dads. And there's these two characters, Nitas and Spinnerella, who were always together from the very beginning, but they were very, very much minor characters until the last couple of seasons when the whole everything was really going down with the rebellion and the war, and then they became main characters, and you find out that they've actually been married for years, and but it's not made to be a big deal. They're just in love and they're together, and it's really beautiful. And then there's also the new Monster High TV show. Um, does the same thing with Cleo and Frankie having crushes on each other. It's just shown to be normal. Like they're just two teenagers who have crushes on each other. It's not meant to be a big deal. Same when Deuce is revealed to have two moms. Um, and yeah, so I really like it because I like seeing it when it's normalized and when it's not made a big deal. And I get why sometimes we need it to be made a big deal because there are characters who go through a lot before they find out that they um, are lesbian or gay or whatever. Because sometimes you don't realize it. Sometimes it's hard, and sometimes you go through a lot, and sometimes you don't have an understanding family. But yeah, so but that is it. I just wanted to rant about how sometimes these days at least kids shows are normalizing queer characters relations more than adult shows. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and comment if you've seen any of these, if you agree with me and my points, if you have anything else to say, maybe I could make a part 2 of this someday. And until next time.